I love it. So this question of the power of conversation, the transformative power of conversation, even just on an individual level, right? Being able to test one's own ideas. Because even if we ultimately come to the same conclusions after putting our ideas to the test, it's still, there's still value in testing our ideas, right? So I love what you're saying about how you've exposed yourself and continue to expose yourself even to voices or perhaps positions where initially you might automatically presume that you don't have anything common to them, right? In this instance, the left versus the right in American politics. Um, because many people often make the presumption that if they identify on either side, the other side can't say anything that I can learn from, right? Or can't say anything that I can agree with. The tendency is to continuously subvert conversation and dialogue in any meaningful way, right? So, this idea of holding your feet to the fire, exposing yourself to different viewpoints, not just viewpoints that you assume you're going to agree with, right? And test the bounds of your knowledge and your ideas. I think that if more people do that, if more people did that, the world would be inevitably a better place.
Yeah, and it also does something for you as an individual because you cannot truly know the validity of your arguments if you do not test them against competing arguments. So at times you get a clearer perspective on your own position when you engage in dialogue with other people. So it makes it clearer. There's this thing that says that you when you teach other people a certain subject, you understand it better. I think it's the same thing with positions and dialogue. And that's why I hate echo chambers. I hate it with a passion. I don't want to be in a sphere where I listen to people who agree with me and what we just do is pat ourselves in the back and say the same things. In fact, once I hear a particular position or narration 2 times, by the third time I get irritated by it because I want to move on to something fresh. Okay, I know this already. I don't want to listen to this anymore. I want something fresh. Maybe it had to do with something with my sense of wonder. As a child, I was very inquisitive, and my dad would always tell me, and my uncle, my late uncle, which was who I dedicated this novel to. He died last year of cancer, a very young man. He was, he and my dad were the two people I was always bombarded with questions. I just had this, I had a sense of wonder about the world, and I wanted to know more. I wanted to, get to know what's the next thing that excites me. So I was always seeking new information. So in that regard, I don't like hearing the same thing too many times. It just irks me. I want to learn something else. So talking with people, having a dialogue with people, it does that. And you come with it with no malice, with no ill intent. I always come to every conversation with, okay, I'm not trying to win, I'm trying to understand. And if your position makes sense, then there is really no reason why I should be obstinate about it. I can say for a fact that you have convinced me about the issue of racelessness. Before my conversation with you, I was of the opinion that race is biological. You can't tell me that race isn't biological. But I listened to your arguments and I listened to your positions, and I found that she's actually right. She's actually correct. And to that point, in a way, I actually believed what you were saying, but I wasn't able to articulate it in the sense of it being of racism creating race, because I listened to Thomas Sowell, and Thomas Sowell usually said something that the African Americans were not enslaved because they were black. Um, the justification for the enslavement came after that fact. So it wasn't because they were black. That's why they were enslaved. You understand? So it is that demeaning or the racist attitude towards them that gave birth to them being classified later on as a separate race somewhat in America. And I understood that. I accepted that. Still, I accepted the opinion. I was of the opinion that race was biological. You can't tell me that I'm not different from a white person and all that. But I was able to engage with you, and you were able to change my mind. So that's a big plus for dialogue. So dialogue is good.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Charles, because that's not something you had shared before. And that makes me feel heartened that, I'm not talking and sharing and discussing these ideas with people for no reason, because I try not to look at it as, okay, my objective is to persuade people, right? I do look at it as my objective is to educate people. And if that education leads to persuade them to ascribe to a different position than they held when they first came in contact with me, then yeah, I mean, of course, I would see that as a fruitful thing, because of my conviction that the way racism and race currently operate in American society is enabling the same system of racism to continue to persist, right? And until we get our hands on it better and have more generative conversations about the problems and so on and so forth, or have conversations at all, then we will continue to stay in this quagmire, and more people than not will continue to be disadvantaged because of the way that we view each other.